Good morning and welcome to Morning Gospel Fuel with Mr. G. It is Wednesday, October 13th, the 28th Wednesday of Ordinary Time, and it is the feast day of St. Edward the Confessor. And he was the last, or one of the last Anglo-Saxon kings of England, usually considered the last king of the House of Wessex, in which he ruled from 1042 to 1066. And I never really knew what Edward or what the Confessor meant, but evidently the term confessor reflects one's reputation as a saint who did not suffer martyrdom, as opposed to his uncle, King Edward the Martyr. So there we go. And this King Edward the Confessor, Saint Edward the Confessor, is the patron saint of difficult marriages, separated spouses of England prior to 1347, and he's also the patron saint of the English royal family and those who are kings. So, today's gospel is from Luke chapter 11, verses 42 through 46. Let's begin in the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit, amen. Woe to you, Pharisees! You pay tithes of mint and of rue and of every garden herb, but you pay no attention to judgment and to love for God. These you should have done without overlooking the others. Woe to you, Pharisees! You love the seat of honor in synagogues and greetings in marketplaces. Woe to you! You are like unseen graves over which people unknowingly walk. Then one of the scholars of the law said to him in reply, Teacher, by saying this you are insulting us too. And he said, Woe also to you, scholars of the law! You impose on people burdens hard to carry, but you yourselves do not lift one finger to touch them. This is really interesting, as we still have Jesus denouncing the Pharisees and scholars of the law. So Jesus is trying to teach them what the true teachings of Christ are. And telling us that we need to, quit being hypocrites, pretty much. Quit preaching and not practicing. In which I think it's what really stood out to me is, whenever he makes the transition from the Pharisees, and then he goes from starting at verse 45, talking to the scholars of the law. Scholars, those who are highly intelligible. They are educated, they know the faith. And Jesus makes this switch where it says, teacher, or the scholar of the law, the wise upon the wise, says, Teacher, by saying this, you are insulting us too. And what did Jesus respond with? He said, Woe also to you, scholars of the law! Exclamation point. You impose on people's burdens hard to carry, but you yourselves do not lift one finger to touch them. So this scholar takes the truth of what Jesus is saying as an insult, and you see how Jesus responds. He comes back even stronger. And there's a reason in Luke's gospel that they put an exclamation point there for emphasis, as we know what an exclamation point is. And so in this dialogue, and I feel like I've run into this many times myself, and where, because how you receive information, as well as myself, whether you take it as an insult or to grow, is clearly a matter of perspective and based upon the mode of the receiver. And so our receiver, the scholar, was not ready to hear it. He kind of refused to hear it. So clearly these Pharisees and scholars received the words of Jesus, the words of truth, as an insult, and they were challenged, and they didn't like Jesus' bluntness. However, Jesus knew them better than they knew themselves, right? Because he's Jesus, and he knew what he needed to say and how he needed to respond, and also how he needed to say it, because he knew his audience. That's why I think there's a shift in how he was speaking. So whenever it comes to evangelization, there's, first of all, you got to know what you have to know what you're talking about, and you have to be able to defend what it is that you're talking about. confidently. And if you don't know it, that's God inviting you to try to dig deeper in your research and in prayer to understand it and understand what it is that He's talking about. So there's that side of where you need to be able to know that as a Christian. That's as our Christian duty. But whenever it comes to evangelization, there are always various elements that come into play. Time, place, situation, personality of those that come of the people that are in the conversations that you are having. Especially about the faith, because we are all at so many different levels of faith. Some don't know hardly anything about Christianity and faith. Others know a lot. And then there's always a whole spread in between. So how do we know how to do it? Do you be gentle? Do you be blunt? Depending on which approach you have to go, will you sound humble or will you sound arrogant? Those who are wise will take what they don't want to hear as a challenge. Either to grow in their own understanding of what they believe in, or to be more confirmed in their own personal beliefs, or to reflect a little bit more and say maybe I should look into that a little bit deeper. So it's either going to permit them to convert, or it'll permit them to confirm. It's one or the other. But those who are foolish will get angry and will take challenges more as an attack on their personality, refusing to see other perspectives or to deepen their own convictions about who they are and what it is that they believe. This doesn't deal with only the faith. This can go across any topic in conversation. This is why it's important to know your audience. But again, make sure you know what it is that you're talking about first, and you're confident in it. Because you can't sell something, so to speak, if you don't even believe in it yourself. So, it reminded me a lot whenever I was coaching basketball, and also whenever I was teaching high school math. Students are all different. They are all at different levels of understanding. They're all at different levels. And this is why you just do your best in the moment with all those factors that come into play, and then leave the rest to God. So, like Jesus in Luke's gospel, the question is, how are you doing in your Christian evangelization, especially in a world that clearly needs more and more of it? So, have a great day. God bless, and keep it real. In the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit, amen.